Okay.
How's your Mother's Day?
It was good. I think we are live now. Let me make sure. Hey guys, once again, this is a one-woman show, so please bear with us. We're going to get all set up here in 1 second. So I want you guys to meet my friend.
It's me.
Okay, come on down. Come on down. All right, guys, hold on 1 second. What is wrong? Okay, here we go. Hey guys, I'm sorry about that. Give us one moment to make sure everything is good to go here. Okay, Adrienne, testing, testing. Let me hear a shout, please.
Hello.
There you go. Hey guys, happy Sunday to you. Welcome to another edition of Seek and Sip Travel. I am your host, founder of Seek and Sip Travel, Johnny Riles. And today we have a very special guest. I'm going to give a little bit of introduction. If you're not familiar with this cognac brand, they don't only do cognac, they do assortment of very, very fine spirits. And I have a special guest with me today that is going to tell you all about them. I am not going to babble any further about that. I'm going to bring the fabulous Miss Adrienne D. Stoner on. Give her, please, a warm welcome, silent hand clap. Hey, Adrienne, how are you on this rainy Sunday?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me out. We're in work. Doing good.
So great. So listen, you sent me this recipe for a twist on a mint julep. And I said, you know what, we have to do this. I fell in love with the recipe. I'm so excited to get started. But how about we just kind of talk about the brand a little bit first? Tell everybody what it is that you do, how long you've been in the industry, and why you chose the Maison Ferrand.
Yeah. So my background is as a bartender. I bartended mostly in Chicago for the last 17 years. Well, not consecutive last 17 years. I quit the game behind the bar to go full time with Ferrand in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a journey. I really enjoy this work. I worked for a different supplier before this and just really fell in love with this side of the job, where it's a lot of education and it's a lot of introduction and showing people some new things. Maybe they weren't new spirits that they weren't really familiar with. And my experience extensively working with rum at Three Dots and a Dash and Lost Lake kind of prepared me on that side as well. So now I get to not only work with just rum and tiki cocktails, as you can see, I'm in my virtual Lost Lake right now. I get to work with cognac, which is just such a beautiful spirit. So I was really excited to come here and talk about it. The brand, so for folks that don't know, Ferrand, the cognac name has been in the cognac region for hundreds of years. In this iteration with our master blender, Alexander Gabriel, we're in the 31st year. So he took over for production in the 80s, and we've been carrying on the tradition of this old school style of cognac ever since. Our biggest releases were the Pure Ferrand 1840, which I can see on the screen there. So Ferrand cognac has a rich history in the region. We are 100% Grand Champagne cognac. We have our own vineyards, which is really rare to have a vineyard and also have your own brand. But we're really fortunate that way, and we get full production control, and we do things kind of painstakingly old school and slow. And we like to revive old methods and old styles of cognac that, kind of predate phylloxera. That's kind of one of our angles.
Okay. So tell me one thing. There are so many cognac brands on the market, and it can be a little bit difficult for consumers to try and choose one, which one is better than the other. Can you just tell us a little bit about the different levels of cognac? What makes a particular cognac a little bit better? Is it the soil? Is it the location? You know what? First of all, let's talk about the word cognac anyway. That because that's a specialty designation. Can we talk about that just really quick, please?
Cognac is a brandy from the Cognac region of France. So technically it is a brandy. It's a grape wine distillate, but you have to be in the Cognac region of France in order to qualify as a cognac, as a spirit. So we are in the Grand Champagne region. There are 6 different regions within Cognac, which is a pretty small area. We're in the Grand Champagne region, but you'll also see, you know, these other regions, or you'll see a blend. Normally, if they don't put what region on the bottle, you can just assume it's a blend of various other places. Grand Champagne and Fine Champagne are known to have some of the best soil for growing grapes. So the reason why they gave these areas different names was based off of soil science, measuring the amount of chalk content in the soil. And these designations were solidified in the 1930s, I think 1938. And so ever since then, it's been, oh, are you going to put up a map?
Yeah, I wanted to just show them what the soil looks like while you're talking about it. I should have warned you.
It's really interesting. You know, the topsoil in Cognac, after it rains, it's extremely spongy. And this is important because by AOC law, you're not allowed to water your crops. So you need the soil to literally act as a sponge to maintain moisture throughout any possible dry spells that you might have throughout the season, the growing season, and the harvest season, especially. So you want a better yield. So when the soil scientist was looking at these regions, he put a border around Grand Champagne and said this is the best region for growing these particular grapes. Most of the region is doing Uni Blanc because it grows the easiest, but you can use a couple other varieties of grapes as well. But I would say like Uni Blanc is like 90% of everything. We do have a small production of Colombard, which is going to be a little bit lighter, a little bit more floral, delicate of a cognac.
Okay. And that's really interesting because one of the things I don't think people really know is that cognac is actually, I like to describe it kind of like as in a subclass of the wine family. It's grown on a vine, it's grown in a vineyard. So if you go to a cognac vineyard, as you can see right here in my picture, last October, I traveled throughout France. Went to the Champagne region, went to Cognac, Journat, Bordeaux, and took different pictures. So this is the one you're seeing in the screen. That's one of the Cognac vineyard, and that's kind of like the country, the landscape of it. And it looks just like a regular vineyard. So it's something I think people have to kind of remember, that it's pretty much the same. So just like you said with a Cognac, it's a licensed legal designation. If you're not grown in the Cognac region, you can't be considered a cognac. Similar to champagne, there's sparkling wine. So there's cognac and then there's brandy.
So there are a lot of rules from the AOC. You know, it's regulated by the French government, so you can't bottle it under 2 years old and call it cognac. It doesn't matter if you're using Grand Champagne grapes. If it's under 2 years old, it's just eau de vie. You can't call it cognac until it's spent some time in barrels, which also the barrels, they have to be oak barrels. So that's another rule. There are many rules to cognac production, but it protects the spirit. You know, these rules are meant to protect the spirit, to protect how it's made, to protect the farmers and the financial interest as well. Because if you think about it, you can't get more grapes. There's only so much land, right? Like everyone has as much cognac they can make for what land they have. And if you have a bad yield, if you have a really hard season, then you just have a hard financial cognac season. You just don't get to put any cognac in a barrel that year, you know? It's protected that way, which is beautiful, but it's also, you know, makes cognac kind of a tough game. The biggest brands, there's four big brands that kind of own the market on cognac, and out of maybe 350 brands total, the four that we know get all of the play. So it's a distributed, I mean, it's a imported spirit for us, right? So it's like, if you're a small farmer in Grand Champagne cognac, like, you're not going to go through the trouble of organizing branding, get a marketing team, figure out distribution in other countries. Like, this is a small farming region, so it's like, yeah, you're not going to see a lot of those smaller brands. I think we were talking about this offline about how there are so many other cognacs that maybe you don't get in the US because it's too hard to distribute. So a lot of the farmers will sell to the bigger houses instead of protecting their own brand or trying to like join the market share, which is just dominated by these other brands. They sell to the other brands.
Okay. So let's flip back to the eau de vie really quick. Am I saying that right? Is it eau de vie or is it eau de vie?
Eau de vie.
Eau de vie. All right. So
I'm working on my French, which is like, I've been working for French companies now for like 6 years. So I have to, the heat is on. I have to learn French. But like EAU, I think I always think of like the word beau. Like,
okay.
Technically,
well, I totally Americanized it. So imagine you're spending 3.5 weeks in France and you're totally butchering, but I learned how to say I'm sorry, I'm trying a lot. So really quick, so right here on the screen, I have two pictures. So one is definitely the eau de vie. And what's so beautiful about it, and I think it's the one thing, once going to this region actually swayed me towards being a serious cognac lover. I was getting into bourbons, I was getting into whiskeys, but then it just kind of lacked something. And I think that's what I found it in cognac, because it's gorgeously floral. It's pretty, just like a wine. So can you just tell us really quick what we're looking at?
Yeah, so the picture on the left is going to be just a fresh eau de vie, just unaged. There's no color, which clearly you've tasted this, and I've been pushing for the company. It's okay that this is recording, because I've been telling them, like, I really wish we could sell this in the US, but for a cognac producer to sell something that you can't call cognac seems a little bit like you're cheating yourself, right? You spend all of this hard work having the AOC recognized perfect soil, and then to sell, you have to sell it basically as brandy. But it's delicious. It has that almost like peachy kind of light floral note. And then on the right, that's aged, I wouldn't know how many, I would say maybe like 4 years. I don't know what.
You're right. It's about on the beginning of 4 years age.
Still got it. Yeah, so it takes aging. It has to age in oak barrels. So that's a part most folks are using French oak. There's a forest in France, and Napoleon actually like planted a lot of forests because he thought he was going to need all of them for ships for a war. But those trees are still there. So now a lot of those trees are what they use for making barrels. And the forests are also regulated by the government. So you can't deforest, you can't cut too many. The trees have to be, I don't know the exact age, I know it's over 70 years. So the tree has to be 70 years old, but there is an exact year. And I think it might be 75 or 77, I can't remember. So yeah, it's protected, even the oak is protected. So you'll see some really old barrels in the Cognac region, and they just try to hold on for as long as they possibly can, because it's rare, it's precious. It's definitely a lot more expensive. I've been to some cooperages. A lot of these barrels are made by hand. So when you see guys putting rings on a barrel with a hammer, and they got their noise canceling headphones, they can't put rings more than one person can maybe do 20 to 40 barrels a day. That's nothing when you go into a cognac aging facility and you're like, wow, that's a lot of manpower, just in the barrels alone, not to mention the vineyards and all the other work that goes into it.
Well, that's just a shot of the Airbnb that I had when I was in Cognac. I'm just gonna, because I keep coming back to this. That was my car that I rented in France. Yeah, that was an experience. I was totally a big girl on this trip. It was my first solo vacation, and I just wanted to do it right. So those are my little pictures right there. That's my last one. And I know that I noticed that I'm missing one, and it's all good. We'll talk about it. And that's the one for my, hold on guys, I got to come back into focus. That's the one for the Zamjam.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I learned when I was there was that once you age the cognac, you get it to where you want it to be. If you wanted to save it, so like a special kind of anniversary batch or something like that, you could use these little barrels. They look like old school, like wine barrels. They have the straw. And after the broadcast, I'll post a picture of it. It didn't make it in the presentation, but I was very surprised to see that there were cognacs that were like from the early 1900s, that these particular houses were preserving. And I thought that that was so cool and very similar to how champagne is actually preserved as well, when they have like a lot of champagne houses when there's a birth or a graduation or someone gets married, they'll do like a special vintage for that particular champagne. So it was really similar in cognac as well.
Yeah, cognac, they'll set aside cognac and demijohns just for decades. So it's impressive, the history that goes into it. And, I always think it's fascinating that a producer like our master blender, even, that he'll make a cognac, they'll produce a cognac or an eau de vie, right, today, and he might be dead by the time it's bottled. Like, that's very strange to think about, but it's realistic. Like, that's the name of the game. So a lot of the blenders, it's not necessarily always like passed down in your family, but it's a very protected job. And you kind of, if you get the job of master blender, you kind of keep it until you pass away. Like, there's, it's really highly respected in that region if you get, your master blender position. And then those guys hang on to it indefinitely. So our master blender, Alexandre, is like one of the youngest in the region, and he's in his like late 50s. Mid to late. I don't want to be unkind, but but he's the youngest. I mean, by many years. Where he's up against some of these other guys who've been doing this for 50 years. So it's got a hierarchy for sure, but it's delicious juice.
It truly, truly is. I always tell, if you are a really serious wine lover, there's no way you won't like cognac. You just haven't been sipping the right kind, right?
There's so many different cognacs, it's I guess it's kind of a pricey hobby if you just, if you got to do the research. I mean, the real judge of character is just your own. Like, what do you like to drink and what do you taste? It's the same with any other spirit, right? But cognac houses are very unique in their production methods, and so you can't say like one is better than the other. Every blender has their style, and if that's the blender you fall in love with, then that's your brand. Like, got their own thing. I mean, I think Ferrand cognac is unique because a lot of our methods kind of harken back to the 1800 style of cognac. We play around with barrels, which is a little bit unorthodox these days, because a lot of the AOC rules about aging didn't start until the 1940s. So that's a recent history in the grand scheme of, cognac production, which has been going on for hundreds of years. But yeah, so we play around. I like the cognac that I recommended for this. Well, both of them actually are pre-phylloxera style cognacs. We have the 10 generations, which is a cognac that has a second aging in Sauterne, which used to happen all the time. Like, you would age cognac in wine barrels or, whatever you have on hand. But now with the rules being it has to be French oak, and it's a little bit more restrictive. So you don't see, we kind of are the trailblazers. We're like the renegade, we're the rogue in the region. So once we like break down that wall and kind of like push the needle a little bit, then we see other houses kind of doing the same. So it's exciting. Like, it's okay to experiment. We're not changing the spirit technically, you know, we're not outsourcing our grapes. Like, we're still making cognac. We're just like doing things a little bit different. So we got the Sauterne cognac barrel aged, and then I also recommend the 1840, which is always a go-to for cocktails, especially with the bars that I work with, because it is a pre-phylloxera style. It's a higher proof. It's a really wide range blend. So it's got some 20-year, it's got some like 3 to 5 years. So it's all over the map. But it stands out in cocktails because it's higher proof, whereas like the majority of the market right now is going to be bottled at 80. So, you know, you gotta like, we just don't always keep confined to like the way everyone's been doing it for the last 60 years. We want to like see what was going on in the 1850s.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little, because I want to get into the spirit, and then we got to definitely get into making our cocktail. So I just wanted to say, I think one of the things that that helped me really decide was Seek and Sip, because we started as a general travel agency first, and then you know, it felt like work, and I already worked full time. I didn't need another job. I just didn't want two full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So well, if you're going to do this, you have to do this to where it's going to be fun, and it's going to be something that you're passionate about. And I am very much a natural born educator. I love teaching people new things. I'm curious, so I love to explore. I love traveling, and traveling to Cognac was one of the best decisions of my life. It really helped me understand the Cognac as a spirit. It helped me kind of make, for me, better choices according to my palate, because I understood where it was coming from, how it was produced, and how it was aged. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about, so like with me, I feel like if I take you to Cognac and you sip a Cognac at the actual house in Maison Ferrand, then that experience is 150 times better than sipping it, you know, at your kitchen counter. Do you pretty much agree with that?
Agree. I definitely agree. And I think once you have that experience, even the one time, every sip takes you back to that place, which is the best part about making memorable spirits. Like, the end game is that you're making spirits that are so striking that you have those positive reactions with every sip, whether you're in your home or, you know, at work, like at a bar, or if you're like at the distillery, because that's usually my first thought, especially if it's like an unaged, especially if like I, you know, get some like fresh rum, especially in the case of rum, like you taste a young, like young or unaged white rum or something fresh off the still. If I take that, distill it at home, it's like I'm still there. You know, every sip is like just being in that place. So I think any spirit that can transport you, if it's a cognac that takes you back to the distillery in France, then it's a good one. Because I think that's what it's all about. If the spirit is forgettable, then the master blender's not doing their job.
Very interesting. Okay. So why don't we just kind of take a tour of the different of the spirits, and then we're going to get into our cocktails, and then you can kind of share your favorite travel story, or you can tell us the inspiration behind your twist on a mint julep that I found extremely interesting. So you know, the Maison Ferrand is one of my favorite cognacs, but it's also one of my favorite rums. I love the Plantation rum. That's this one right here. It's a staple. It's one of my go-tos for quick cocktails. If I want to zhuzh up my juice a little bit, Plantation is where it's at for me. But I see that we have a couple other things over here too. So let's talk a little bit about this one.
So Plantation Zaimaka, we were fortunate enough we wanted to be producers of rum, as well as, you know, previously when we were like taking rum from other countries, and we had partnerships with different producers, and then we double age it. And that's the Plantation rum mantra for all of our aged spirits, is that they get a second aging in cognac. in our old cognac barrels. But when we were fortunate enough to get our own distillery in Barbados, there was a package deal. So with the West Indies rum distillery in Barbados, we also are 1/3 owner of the National Rums of Jamaica, which includes Long Pond and Clarendon. So the Zaimaka, when we released that, it was a blend of rums from Long Pond and from Clarendon, done in 100% Jamaican pot still, which is really rare. You don't see a lot of 100% pot still rum on the market. And if you do, it's usually really expensive, like a private bottler or something. There are a couple of exceptions, but they're usually like really high proof and almost unaged. So this is 100% pot still, but it's aged. It's a blend of 2 to 17 year, and then also aged in cognac, like all of our aged rum is. So it's a little bit of that funky Jamaican, but not extremely aggressive. It's a little bit higher than 80 proof. It's 86. But yeah, it has some of that like funky high ester kind of banana undertone that you get that is classically Jamaican. And we're really proud of it. Zaimaka is the word for Jamaica. It's the Arawak spelling of it.
Interesting. I think that's probably another reason why I was so attracted to it, because it's aged in your cognac barrels as well. So you kind of still get a little bit of that, the essence of the cognac, and I think that really does help to kind of smooth out that bite that you can kind of get with rum sometimes. So that's definitely a really good sipping rum. It doesn't always have to be doused in coconut cream for daiquiris. You can definitely sip rum on its own. It just has to be a good one.
To be a good one, correct. I really like that rum, and the prescription julep is from the 1800s, so we know the julep mostly from the Derby, right? And we know it as a bourbon drink, because bourbon companies have kind of commandeered it and said like, this is our drink, and this is like the national drink of America and of Kentucky, which I'm not arguing. Like the cognac cocktails history, like the julep, which earliest in the 1800s it was being made with cognac, but cognac in America has a really extensive history with like the Sazerac, with the julep. These cocktails were commonly made with cognac because people had a serious love of cognac. The relationship between America and France was a positive one. And so you would see, especially in like, the upper class homes who were making cocktails back in the like early 1800s, mid 1800s, they would always use cognac. But it wasn't like a rich man's spirit. It was definitely still, imported, but it wasn't like so expensive. And then phylloxera hit. So phylloxera was a pest that killed off more than 90% of the grapes in the Cognac region. And it almost wiped out the spirit itself. And so you look at that history, and overnight you have to stop using cognac for cocktails because you couldn't get your hands on it. And if you could, you certainly would not be putting it in a drink because it was rare to use. And by like 1895, it had kind of dried up. And so that's when you see the big switch. So the shift in cocktails that formerly were made with cognac to then being made with whiskey. But there's a pretty rich history, and a lot of like the Sazerac and some of these, I mean, even bourbon, the word bourbon, right? Like historically came from the French. So like there were a lot of French folks in the US back then, and they had their hands in the spirit world, and we're bringing their own juice on board. So I just wanted to like bring back a julep. I think mint works really well with cognac. I think the like savory notes that kind of like highlight from barrel aging in French oak really shine through. And I just think it's one of the best. I also love like a stinger with cognac, which is another like minty cognac cocktail, but this one kind of hits all of my favorites. It's like a little rum, a touch of rye whiskey, which I also, before I got into rum, I was 100% like rye all day. So it's kind of everything for me, and it's really boozy, and there's nothing else to do in this quarantine. So like, what else am I going to do but like sip really delicious spirits and kind of just let it wash over me?
Exactly, and kind of get your recipe book tuned up as well.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
So let's get into it then. Let's make your mint julep. Just tell me what to do. I'm gonna follow along with you. Remember, I am not a bartender. And I also want to make this disclaimer that you should be 21 and over if you're watching this broadcast, number one. Yeah, so I'm not a bartender. The folks watching probably aren't bartenders as well. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's go.
So I am gonna build it into this cup. This is the bottom of like a pineapple. I don't have the top over here, but it's like a little pineapple thing with a straw. But you like to use the metal cup. The julep cup really is just to ensure that the cocktail stays cold, right? But you don't need to use this. You can also drink it out of a regular glass. I'm not a total purist. Obviously, I don't even have a julep cup in my home, so I'm gonna be using this giant thing instead. And then
Laughing because I think I do have a julep cup.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, it's just
I like using that because you get to kind of see the ingredients and everything, and it makes a pretty picture too. So either or.
However you want to do it, you know, we're in quarantine, so like don't be hard on yourself about what you have and don't have in your house.
Okay.
The mint. So mint, I mentioned varying because if you have tiny mint leaves, then you're going to need to use more like this. This is tiny. This is a tiny mint leaf. But then I also have like this guy. So you kind of just eyeball it. But I'm going to do, this is like a handful, but it's technically 10 leaves. I kind of just roll them in my hand a little bit like this and let them fall in the cup. Then I'm going to add.
That really releases the mint oils.
Yeah, when you're working with mint, you don't want to like pulverize it. You don't want to muddle too hard because it'll release chlorophyll and it'll start to taste bitter. So I pour the demerara syrup in the cup, and then I'm just gonna like kind of softly press the mint leaves without totally muddling. You know, just you don't want to like give it a big battering. You just kind of want to move the mint leaves around and help release the oils on the leaves.
Okay. So when do you stop with the syrup? And guys, don't worry, I will post the recipe on Facebook for you guys who are watching on Facebook. I'll post the recipe, but for you guys at home, you already have it. So just let me know how it turns out. Okay, Adrienne.
I would say like maybe a minute, 60 seconds. And then, so we're going to build everything in this. I'm going to add a little ice. Whatever cup you're using, don't fill it all the way to the top. Just add maybe like, so this is my cup. I'm adding to about here, ice. So not all the way up.
You guys at home.
The reason we're doing this, we're slowly kind of diluting the booze we're layering the booze with the ice and then repeating. I'm going to start with rye.
So yeah, about like that, guys.
Yeah.
It's not even halfway. Perfect. So now, how much whiskey am I using again?
You're going to do 1/2 ounce.
I have to look on the inside of the things, guys. I got it.
Yeah. You know, when I do any cocktail classes, I always the biggest stress is like balance is so important, and you can't get balance unless you are measuring. You know, it's just like baking, it's just like cooking. Like you can't really eyeball ounceage of an 80 or higher proof spirit, right? This rye whiskey is 100 proof. Mm-hmm. I don't want to eyeball that because it could go, you know, kind of overboard really quickly. So now we're going to agitate it a little bit. Again, you don't want to like, you're not trying to like pulverize the mint. You still have to be mindful of it. I'm literally just like swirling a spoon. You can use a regular spoon. You don't have to have a fancy mixing bar spoon. Just swirling the booze, agitating the ice, chilling the whiskey. And then,
okay.
Then we add ice again. next round of ice. So now we're gonna fill it even higher. So almost to the top. Perfect.
Got it.
Then we're gonna do 2 ounces of cognac. I'm using the 10 generations. So this is the cognac that's aged in Sauterne. First in French oak, then in Sauterne casks.
Well, then I'm going to use the 10 generations.
This stuff, I mean, this is another one. It's higher proof, so it's kind of the name of the game for us. This one's 92 proof. It's a little bit hot, but really, really surprisingly smooth as a sip.
All right, how much is that again?
2 ounces.
So guys, when you drink Adrienne's Mint Julep, please make sure you have something on your stomach. You're gonna need it.
You will need it, that's true. And then, so you mix around, let that dilute. Oh, I gotta strain some of this water out. 1 second. Ice is melting here. All right. Then you add ice to the top. Normally, if you get it in a bar, they'll have like fancy, beautiful crushed ice. Looks like you have beautiful ice. I have trash ice, but that's okay.
Well, we're gonna work with what, because my ice maker cussed me out because I kept pulling all the ice out today, and so I only got a little bit of crushed ice out. So
then I'm gonna take the Jamaican, and it called for dashes. I'm not gonna bother putting this rum in a dasher bottle because I'll forget what it is. I'll have to label it, and I don't do that at home. So I'm just gonna do like a short 1/4 ounce.
all right, short 1/4 ounce.
So the reason it's Jamaican, Jamaican rum is famous for having that. I mean, especially when the prescription julep was written in the 1800s, they only had pot still rum back then. The column still hadn't been invented in 1857. So when anything called for Jamaican, they were expecting, kind of that heavy pot still weighted Jamaican style. That it is a little bit funky, has the banana notes, and it would have been generally a little bit younger as well. So that just kind of sits on top. Juleps, you'll see recipes all over that say like garnish with berries. Obviously you have to garnish with mint, but you'll also see like berries, other fruits. And this one in particular called for orange. Not for the taste of orange, but for the scent. So you just want that in your face when you're drinking it.
So do you do the orange oil like on the top, on the rim, or are you just like putting it on the glass for garnish?
It's to taste. I mean, if you wanted to, you could just like express an orange peel and discard, but I just like it looks prettier the way I'm doing it with a slice. And then the orange, I gotta be in front of it. So this is how it looks. And then I'm gonna position a straw right inside the mint bushel. I'll show you in a second. So when you go to bars and they put mint on top, like they want you to be smelling the mint while you're drinking it. It's a part of the whole experience. So this is my final product.
All right, I'm gonna take that out. I'm gonna put that there.
Boom.
I don't like that one. I like pretty stuff.
Oh, that is good and powerful.
Boom.
That's so pretty.
All right, cheers.
Clink.
Oh yeah. Make sure you put some on your stomach Make sure that there's a designated driver. But mint juleps are always on the stronger side for me anyway, but I really do enjoy them, especially in the summertime. It's all the ice. It really kind of cools you down.
That's the thing, right? Like it's such a strong drink. There's not much to it. Obviously, as you've watched me make it, it's mostly just like waiting for spirit to dilute. But if it's hot out and you're just slamming this, you'll be drunk after, well, maybe after one, but definitely after two.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful about how you drink mint juleps. But
well, I have to say, Adrienne, this is really delicious. It's not like your typical mint julep. There's something kind of spicy back there. I'm thinking that maybe the rum on that back note is really good. Never thought about making a mint julep with using rum and cognac, but here you are.
We snuck in a little whiskey just so we're not, total heathens. But it's an interesting. It's more of a forgotten classic, right? Because the whiskey machine in the U.S. has totally taken over, and I'm not sorry for it. But I like to kind of reintroduce this drink to folks who kind of closed off the cognac cocktail history, and I think it works well. I think mint and cognac work really well together. So I would encourage any other mint cocktail to be tried with cognac.
Okay. Well, as we're wrapping up, because we're right on time. So let's say you had your cocktail, this mint julep, anywhere in the world where you could make this cocktail and sip it and maybe share it with someone you love. Where would that be?
Anywhere?
Anywhere.
I had my heart set on my sister and I were going to go to Spain for her birthday in June. So it'd be really great if we could just be sipping this like in a sunny Barcelona street side. Although not, this cocktail, there are cocktail bars that would make it, but it's definitely not like a Spanish classic at all. But you can find Spanish brandy, and I think it could also be another like fun riff on the cocktail. So I would like to go to Spain and celebrate my sister's birthday, but instead we'll be celebrating here.
Well, I think most of us watching, we can definitely identify with that. I had no plans. My birthday was Thursday, so I had no plans on being in the house on my birthday. I was supposed to be in California. So, yeah, it's been very, I'll say, interesting dealing with this virus and everything that kind of comes along with it. But yeah, I mean, human life comes first. So, we have to sit down for a little while, and it's not going to be forever. It's just for a little time. So
yeah, you're working, right? You're helping out with medical field again, right?
Uh-huh.
Thank you for doing that. I applaud you. That's terrifying. And I'm obviously people who go into that work are already pretty fearless, but this is like next level. I can't even imagine going 10 feet from a hospital right now. Like not going to happen.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky at this point. I mean, I've been away from the bedside for about 3 years now. So I entered more on the IT side of healthcare. But we were building out units for COVID patients. We were still around the virus, and I am a member of a COVID team. So at any point, I may have to go and help out, my fellow nurses and everything. So, but yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm going to say great cocktail, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about Maison Ferrand and I learned a lot. I hope the viewers learned a lot as well. And I hope you had a lot of fun, Adrienne. I'd love for you to come back. Maybe next time we'll do more with the rum side. That would be awesome.
As the weather breaks, maybe when it feels like rum outside. Right now it's like we're living in a rainy, like, what is this, Seattle? Where are we? It's just like raining nonstop for weeks. We had like one nice day and then it's bad again.
I know.
Weather breaks. I'm happy to come back. You can pick, dealer's choice, whatever rum drink you want.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Adrienne. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you guys for hanging out with us again. If you need further information about Maison Ferrand, please come back to the Facebook page. I'm going to post the video will be available. I'm going to post the recipe for you as well. My pictures from my travels in Cognac will be available, and also a link to the website. So, Maison Ferrand is pretty much found at any of your specialty liquor stores, and probably even your neighborhood one as well. Okay. So as always, be safe, guys. Be good to each other, love on each other a little bit more, especially during this time. And as always, we like to say, we are traveling the world searching for the perfect sip. So when we're able to travel again, I hope you choose Seek and Sip Travel to do that. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your Sunday. Bye. Come back next week. And I have to go off camera because I'm a one-woman show right now. Bye, guys.